I took care of my grandfather after his stroke, bathed him, fed him, spent every weekend by his side. At the reading of his will, my aunt announced he left everything to me. He said you were just doing it for the money. The lawyer handed me a folder, and inside was a letter with my name on it and a copy of a check I never received. What that letter said broke me until I saw the last line. I was 28 when my grandfather had a stroke. I was working part-time at a hardware store in Naperville, Illinois, and living in a rented basement apartment. My life was nothing special, but I was getting by. When I got the call from the hospital, I drove over right away. Grandpa had collapsed in his kitchen. It was bad. He couldn't speak clearly. His right side was almost paralyzed. He didn't recognize me at first, but when he finally did, he started to cry. I didn't think twice. I told the nurse I'd figure things out. I took unpaid time off. I moved into his place. I learned how to help him dress, eat, go to the bathroom. I cleaned him up after accidents. I cooked his food, gave him his pills, argued with him about eating his greens and going to therapy. He was proud, hated being weak, but he let me help him. Over time, he even started smiling again. I gave up my job. My landlord kicked me out for not paying rent. I stayed with Grandpa full-time for 4 years. 4 years. I didn't do it expecting money. He raised me when my mom disappeared and my dad died. He gave me a home when I had nowhere to go. Taking care of him was the least I could do. My aunt didn't see it that way. She came around maybe once every 3 or 4 months. Brought cookies, snapped a few pictures, posted on Facebook about being a caring daughter. Never stayed more than an hour. The nurses at Grandpa's rehab center used to roll their eyes when she came around. The sister, they'd whisper, "Yeah, she doesn't do sh*t." Still, I thought things were okay. Grandpa and I had our fights. He could be stubborn as hell. But we made it through. He passed away in his sleep last summer. I was holding his hand. I thought he knew I loved him. I thought he appreciated what I did. I thought maybe, just maybe, he'd leave me the house. Or something. What happened next nearly broke me. A few weeks later, we were at the lawyer's office. Mr. Greaves. Small guy, balding, weird smile. He looked uncomfortable the second we sat down. It was just me, him, and Aunt N. Before Greaves could even open the file and goes, "Dad left everything to me." He told me himself. He said Matt didn't deserve anything because he was only helping to get in the will. I blinked. I thought I heard her wrong. She smiled. Smug. Triumphant. Like she'd been waiting to say it. Greaves cleared his throat, then read the will. It was true. The house. The bank accounts. The car. All to Anne. I didn't say anything. I just sat there stunned. Then Greaves handed me a separate folder. "This is for you," he said. "Your grandfather asked me to give it to you directly." Inside was a letter in Grandpa's handwriting. Messy, shaky, but still his. And a photocopy of a cashier's check. Not a real check. Just a copy. It said, "Pay to the order of Matthew R. Dunning, amount $145,000 from Joseph L. Dunning, date 10 months before he died." The letter said, "Matt, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I asked Mr. Greaves to give you this after everything's settled. You gave up your life to take care of me. You didn't have to. And I probably didn't say it enough, but I'm grateful. I took out everything I had left, $145,000, and had a check made for you. I gave it to Greaves for safekeeping. I didn't want him to find out and fight it. If you're reading this and you don't have the check, something's wrong. You have a choice. Walk away or dig deeper. I trust you to know what to do. Love you, kid." Grandpa, my stomach dropped. There was no check, just the copy. And Anne was sitting across from me, pretending none of this meant anything. I looked at Greaves. He looked nervous, sweaty, like he wanted to crawl under the table. "I don't have the check," he said quickly. "I only had the letter. Bullsh*t. Something was off. Grandpa might have been sick, but he wasn't stupid. If he told Greaves to hold on to something, he would have done it, unless someone got to him." I went home and read the letter again, 12 times. Then I started digging. First, I called the bank. They wouldn't tell me anything over the phone. Then I remembered Marcus, a guy I used to work with who now did fraud investigations for another branch. I called in a favor. A week later, he called me back. "Matt," he said, "I'm not supposed to say this, but yeah, that check was real. It was issued last year. Then it got cancelled. Reissued to someone else. To who? I asked. He paused. To Annette Reynolds. My aunt. She had the check reissued in her name. Somehow she convinced Grandpa or Greaves to cancel the original and make it out to her. I felt sick. I couldn't breathe for a minute. Then I got angry. I called the neighbor, Don. He was an old friend of Grandpa's. I asked if he remembered Grandpa talking about changing his will. Yeah, he said. Said he was leaving you everything. Said it only came around for the inheritance. I wrote everything down. Dates, times, names. I contacted a real lawyer. Not a greasy fraud like Greaves. I found someone good, Judith Mendez, downtown Chicago. Tough as nails. She looked over everything and said one word, fraud. We filed a petition to freeze the estate. We subpoenaed the bank. We requested copies of all communications between Greaves and Grandpa. All transactions. All email. What we found was worse than I thought. Greaves had deposited a $140,000 check into his personal account 2 days after the original was canceled, and hadn't gotten the money. He had, and they'd covered for each other, and lied about the will. Greaves stole the money. My inheritance, everything Grandpa saved to thank me, was gone. But now I had proof. I thought having proof would make things easier. Didn't. Judith filed the fraud case. The court agreed to freeze the estate, meaning and couldn't sell the house or move any of Grandpa's assets until things were settled. That alone sent her into a meltdown. She showed up at my apartment 3 days after the freeze went through. She was screaming before I even opened the door. You little piece of sh*t. You think you can steal this from me? I didn't say anything. I just let her talk. She threatened to sue me for slander. Said I was forging letters. That Grandpa wasn't in his right mind. And that I was trying to take what she deserved. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. You want to bring this to court? Fine. But if you think dragging this out will change anything, you're wrong. Dad told me what he really thought of you. He said you were just a leech. That you had nowhere else to go. Then she smiled. You think he loved you like a son? That's cute. She left before I could say anything. I wanted to believe it wasn't true. But it worked. It got into my head. What if she was right? What if he did say those things? I started to doubt myself. Maybe I pushed him too hard. Maybe I was too controlling. Maybe he did think I was just hanging around for the payout. I asked Don again. I asked Grandpa's physical therapist. His nurse. Even the neighbor down the street who always gave Grandpa tomatoes from her garden. They all said the same thing. He always bragged about you, Matt. Called you his only real family. He said you saved his life. So no, I wasn't the leech. She was. I just needed more proof. Not just about the money, but about how deep this all went. That's when I remembered something. 3 months before he died, Grandpa asked me to get a box down from the top of his closet. It was full of old papers, folders, and notebooks. At the time, he told me, don't throw it out. That's my backup brain. I never looked through it. Now I did. I found bank records, handwritten notes, copies of documents. One envelope was labeled in thick black marker for Matt, if ANN or Greaves screw this up. Inside was a list. Bullet points. Things he was worried about. Greaves mentioned needing help with loans. Bad sign. And asked about the house again. Wouldn't shut up. I'm worried about the check. Told Greaves to give it to Matt. If it disappears, he's in on it. There it was. He knew. I brought the list to Judith. She stared at it for a long time, then said, we go to war. She subpoenaed Greaves' communications. Turns out Greaves emailed and the day after he got the check from Grandpa asking to discuss updates to the will. We got their phone records. They spoke 10 times in 1 week after Grandpa gave him the check. The timing was too perfect. Greaves and him both lawyered up. That's when the smear campaign started. Someone emailed my old coworkers claiming I had stolen from an elderly man. My landlord got a letter saying I ran a fraud ring. Anonymous posts showed up online saying I was faking documents. I knew it was N. Or Greaves. Or both. Didn't matter. I wasn't stopping. We forced Greaves to sit for a deposition. Judith grilled him for hours. At first, he denied everything. Said he misplaced the check. Then said maybe Grandpa changed his mind. Then he finally slipped up. He said, look, it's not like the kid was going to get anything in the will anyway. That was it. We had him. He admitted under oath that he knew what the will said and that he acted outside of Grandpa's written wishes. Judith filed new charges. Financial exploitation of a senior. Conspiracy. Theft. Forgery. Elder fraud. Greaves was arrested 2 weeks later. And? She tried to play innocent. But the paper trail was solid. Greaves had forwarded her the digital copy of the check. She knew about it. She used it. She helped cancel it. She helped move the money. She even used it to pay off her credit card debt the week after the new check was issued. I watched her face when the judge unsealed that document. She went pale. She started yelling in court. Called me a liar. Told the judge, he's manipulating everything. He turned Dad against me. He's just a damn squatter. The judge told her to sit down or be removed. My hands were shaking the whole time. I wasn't even angry anymore. I was just tired. Tired of the lies. Tired of seeing Grandpa's memory dragged through the dirt. Tired of fighting just to prove I wasn't the villain in her twisted little story. But I wasn't done yet, because what came next changed everything. A week after Greaves was arrested, Judith got a call from a junior clerk at his old office. She sounded nervous and asked if she could speak to us off the record. We met her at a diner off Route 59, middle of the day, neutral ground. She looked like she hadn't slept in weeks. Her name was Rachel. She was 24, just out of paralegal school, and had been working under Greaves for about a year. I wasn't part of anything shady, she said right away. I saw things. Judith leaned forward. What kind of things? Rachel pulled out a flash drive and slid it across the table. Every time Mr. Greaves had an estate case, he kept duplicates. But some files, he marked them different. Like, he'd label one version original and the other final, but they wouldn't match. I made copies before I left. We didn't say anything. Just waited. He had 2 wills for your grandfather, she said, looking at me. One that left everything to you. And one that left everything to your aunt. He switched them. I couldn't feel my fingers. Rachel went on. He scanned your grandfather's signature from the real will and pasted it onto the fake one. Dated it a week after the stroke when your grandfather couldn't even write his own name. He told me it was correcting a mistake. I didn't know what to do. Judith looked like she wanted to hug her and strangle her at the same time. We got the flash drive back to the office and printed everything. There it was, side-by-side PDFs. The real will and the fake one. Same layout, different beneficiaries. Different dates. The signature in the fake one had jagged pixelation around the edge. When we enhanced the image, it was clear it was copy-pasted. It was fraud. It was forgery. We brought the evidence to court. Filed a motion for summary judgment. The court agreed the case needed to go to trial, but now it wasn't just about money. It was criminal. And panicked. Her lawyer tried to argue she had no knowledge of the forgery. But Rachel testified she overheard them on the phone. That and said, just make sure my name is on the damn thing. And then, one more twist. Judith was digging through the estate's financial records when she found something odd, a safe deposit box at a different bank. One we hadn't seen before. It was still under Grandpa's name, and it had never been opened after his death. With a court order, we got access. Inside was a small black notebook. Grandpa's handwriting again, this time more steady. It was like a journal. The last 3 entries hit me hard. March 2nd, Greaves told me he fixed the will. Said it would stop family drama. Don't like it. Didn't sign anything. March 6th. And called again. Asked if I wanted her to check on things. Told her no. She got angry. Said Matt was probably writing himself into things. March 15th. Talked to the bank again. Reissued check just in case. Made copy. Told Greaves to hold letter for Matt. Still don't trust them. Hope I'm wrong. There it was. In his own words. He knew. He wasn't confused. He wasn't senile. He saw it coming. Greaves and Anne had tried to steal from him. And from me. And now we had proof that Grandpa never authorized the fake will. That he never signed the new one. That they had fabricated everything to cut me out. What happened next would shake everything. And made a deal. But it came with a price. After the notebook was submitted into evidence, everything changed. Anne's lawyer requested a private meeting with Judith and the court mediator. And was ready to deal. She wanted to avoid jail, or at least avoid losing everything in public. Judith told her flat out, "You don't get to hide." But the court offered one last chance, a plea deal, and would admit to fraud and surrender her claim to the estate in exchange for reduced charges and no jail time. She'd have to pay restitution, sign over the house, and testify against Greaves. She agreed, because she was a coward. The day she signed the agreement, I was sitting across the table. She couldn't even look at me. Her hands were shaking when she said, "I didn't know he forged it." "Stop lying," I said. "You knew. You helped." She started crying. "It wasn't supposed to go like this." "No, it wasn't. But she made it that way. She gave up everything. The house. The savings. The reissued check money which was long gone but now legally owed to the estate and me. Her bank accounts were drained paying fines and restitution. Her car was seized to cover fees. Her name was all over local news. Daughter steals from dying father, cuts out grandson who cared for him. As for Greaves, he didn't get a deal. He went to trial. The jury took 3 hours to convict him on every count: felony fraud, elder abuse, theft, and forgery. He got 6 years. Not white-collar country club prison either, real prison. Apparently he cried during sentencing. He lost his license, his house, and his retirement. His ex-wife came back just long enough to sue him for back alimony. His kids stopped speaking to him. He tried to apologize once through his attorney. I didn't respond. I moved back into Grandpa's house once it was officially transferred to me. It took months to clean it up. Some parts hadn't been touched since the stroke, but I kept the recliner he used to sit in. The old garage tools. His Cubs hat. I framed the real will and hung it in the hallway. It took over a year to get through everything. The court filings. The media attention. The judgment orders. But I finally got what he meant for me to have. All of it. Still, the damage wasn't just financial. That whole time I spent fighting, I lost pieces of myself. I got paranoid, angry, bitter. I yelled at people who didn't deserve it. Pushed away a girl I was dating because I couldn't trust anyone. For a while, I hated what I became. The guy obsessed with revenge. The guy who couldn't let it go. Then I found one more thing. It was tucked inside an old Bible in Grandpa's bedroom. A folded piece of notebook paper. All it said was, "Matt, don't let people like them harden you. You've got more heart than they ever did. That's why you'll win. P.S. Sorry for yelling at you about the eggs. They were fine." I laughed for the first time in months. And I cried. Because that was him. Grumpy, stubborn, and sharp till the end. I still don't know how people like my aunt can live with themselves. She took his last years and tried to turn them into a payout. She would have erased everything I did if she could. But karma doesn't forget. And lives in a dingy apartment now. No car. No money. Her name is a warning in the local legal community. Nobody trusts her. Greaves? He'll be in a cell until his hair goes gray. His legacy is gone. Me? I got justice. Not because I'm smarter or better. Because I didn't quit. I took care of my grandfather when no one else would. He knew that. He made sure I'd find the truth even if it hurt. And when it was all over, I didn't walk away bitter. I walked away free.